Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Hey, what's happening? Good morning and welcome to the program. It is the Thursday edition of the Michael Dukes Show, broadcasting live across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station, and or FM translator, and, of course, live around the world every day at michaeldukeshow.com, where you'll find the audio-only live stream, links to the social media sites, like the deals, like Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, and, of course, links to our podcast like you'd find on Spotify. Just Spotify, Caster, TuneIn Radio, wherever you find podcasts, just go off with you, be free, and you can check it out. Well, welcome to Thursday. Busy week this week. Man, it's been so fast. I mean, just the whole week is just coming at you at a blur. I can't believe it's Thursday already. We've been talking about local elections and trying to focus on them because I believe that what we do locally is it matters. It matters more than a lot of the other things that people seem to be focused on. Everybody seems to be focused on, like the presidential debate. Did anybody even watch the presidential debate yesterday? No? Yeah, me either. I mean, really, at this point, to quote, what difference does it make at this point? I mean, we're so far ahead of the process at this point. Anyway, I believe that the difference that can really be made, especially in things that affect you directly, is at the local level. And that's why I've been trying to hyper-focus on what's happening in local areas around the state. And so we continue. Today, yesterday, it was all business on the peninsula. Today, it's going to be back up into the interior. We're going to be joined by two school board candidates, Maggie Matheson and Michael Humphrey. And we're going to talk about their candidacy and why they have decided to run, and what's going on, and just trying to get the feel here. I'm trying to stay in. One of the things that I discovered since I left Fairbanks 10 years ago, and I've kind of in a lot of ways fallen out of touch with what's going on there directly because I got a lot of stuff going on, right? And I don't live there anymore, so I'm not really hip deep in it all the time. But I'm doing my best to try and get back into down into the mud, so to speak, down into the nitty gritty of what's happening in these communities. Not just Fairbanks, but also down into the peninsula and Kenai and Homer and things like that, because that's what the differences can be made. That's what we need to be. We need to be paying attention to what's going on. Yeah, and Barbara says there's a ton of external money flowing into our elections. Exactly. I mean, I know that the unions and some outside groups have poured something like $20,000 or $30,000 into the local school board election of all things in Fairbanks. School boards in Fairbanks, Alaska. Why would these outside groups want that? unless they're trying to control what's going on in your children's education, which, if you think about it from kind of a darker perspective, that's a little troubling. That's just a little troubling why outside groups would want to influence a small school board in a small borough / county to them in a small area, why would they pour all that money in there? It's interesting. It's very interesting. So we're going to see what happens. We're watching. We're going to see what happens, and we're going to get the information that we can. So Maggie Matheson and Michael Humphrey will be joining us this morning. Maggie in hour 1, Michael in hour 2, and we'll get some deets on what's happening in these various races. On Monday, looks like we're going to have Aaron Gibson joining us from Fairbanks, and then I'm hoping to have another Peninsula candidate so that we can kind of split the thing on there. So it should be good. I mean, my question is, where's all this outside money coming from? I thought that ballot measure number 2 was going to stop the dark money. I mean, I thought isn't that what we were told? Is that the dark money would go away? That's what I was told. And I was told there would be a pony too, and I don't see that. Tomorrow on the program, by the way, I did confirm, hallelujah, Jacob Sullum from Reason Magazine will be joining us to talk about all kinds of stuff, but mostly about the Hunter Biden thing and everything else. He's been and what's going on in California with the large capacity magazine thing that Benitez has just enjoined, and he's been writing just a tremendous amount about guns and firearms changes and laws and court cases and everything else. So we'll have Jacob Sullum on for a full deal tomorrow, starting at 6:24. So don't miss that. All right. What is the story? Because we got Maggie Matheson coming up here in just a few minutes. What is the story that I wanted to cover this morning? This story actually kind of deserves its own. Man, I talk for a living and sometimes it's hard. Its own segment, because this is a very interesting proposition. And I had the first time I heard about it was yesterday or the day before, when I read it in the ADN. Alex DeMarban at the ADN has got this article talking about a $330 million energy storage project in Healy. And I saw the headline and I'm like, well, what's going on here? Never even heard about this. It is a very interesting plan that surrounds the idea of the problem with a lot of renewable energy, especially in Alaska, is that the energy and the power is variable and it can't be depended on, right? The wind blows, but does it always blow at the same speed? Do you have some days that there's no wind blowing? The solar is there, but is the sun out and is it catching enough rays, or is it not? I mean, that is the problem with a lot of renewable energy, is that it is an inconsistent provider. It's not the constant steady drone of the giant turbine that's running on diesel oil or gas or whatever, that's providing that constant power 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's the biggest challenge. So this energy project could provide that bridge power, what they call the bridge power between the times when the renewable energies are not producing enough power to put the grid on and everything else. This $330 million project would be funded in part by a $50 million grant from the federal government. The government in the infrastructure, the bipartisan infrastructure bill, put together a $350 million grant program to explore long-duration energy storage in various communities around the country. The selection opens up the possibility, and the Federal Department of Energy has said that it has selected Westinghouse Electric to be one of the recipients. And Westinghouse has proposed constructing an energy storage facility in Healy at the site of the coal-fired power plant unit that's set to be retired at the end of next year, which I mean, that in and of itself has got, I have questions about that, because that power plant provides a lot of energy to the Enertie to power the rail belt and Fairbanks and everything else. But here's what I found interesting about this. This whole building would produce and would create and store an energy system using nothing more than heated concrete blocks. This is a fascinating idea. They said the facility would rely on a large number of heated concrete blocks to store releasable energy. The project would use a heat pump to draw electricity from the power grid and convert the electricity into heat stored in an inexpensive concrete block system. The stored energy is converted back into electricity using a heat engine. And they actually have a rendering up in the story at the ADN that Westinghouse posted on their Twitter account. And it shows these two big, long housed concrete block facilities, looks like two big buildings with all the electrical lines tying into them and everything else. It could generate enough power through heat to power about 2,000 homes for a month, according to Meadow Bailey, the spokesperson for GVEA. GVEA, by the way, helped Westinghouse submit this project for this grant as well. The project is in an early stage, but GVEA is optimistic that it would work as planned. The utility needs to add renewable power to its systems, and the stored energy can support that renewable power. It acts like a battery, but instead uses pumped thermal energy instead of actual battery technology. And of course, this is going to be very important as we're looking at, down here in the South Central area, at a looming natural gas shortage. Natural gas has been a godsend for my household. I mean, as I said earlier, that first year that we lived here, I saved something like $5,000 in utilities in the first 8 months of living here, just because it was much more affordable, much more inexpensive. Anyway, this project is slated to go online. If the tests show that the power can be provided at a large scale, it's expected to be built out in 5 years, by 2028. And it's one of 9 selected. It's a fascinating concept, and you should go check it out and take a look at this story at the ADN, which was posted a day ago by Alex DeMarban. The best news is that it doesn't require any actual batteries. So no lithium, no cadmium, no graphite, no nothing else, and then no disposal issues because the batteries don't wear out. Hard to wear out concrete blocks, right? You heat them, you cool them, you heat them, you cool them. Hard to wear them out, but it's a fascinating concept, and I'm excited to see what comes of that. And I mean, I'm not necessarily excited to go to all renewables because there are serious issues with some of that. But the biggest problem with renewables was the problem of not being consistent. And something like this, allowing it to switch on and off between this battery backup and the wind power or the solar power, would be a good start. All right, we got to go. Maggie Matheson. I see her in the green room right now. She's hanging out there, smiling, drinking coffee, smoking cigars. It's a big deal. The green room is awesome. And she's got donuts that have absolutely no calories in them. I guaranteed it. That's exactly what I provide in my green room. All right, we got more coming up. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Back with more right after this.
If you missed the show, you can listen to it on your time with Dukes On Demand. Oh, and it's free. Like America used to be. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay, good morning to all of you. Good morning. You all ready here? Let me see what you guys have been talking about before I jump in with Maggie. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Debbie couldn't decide between YouTube or Facebook. It didn't matter to me. I could see all the comments. Good morning, top of the morning. My dad's in here. Hey, Dad, how you doing? Brian said he dreamed that I was sentenced to prison last night. Well, what are you trying to say, Brian? A ton of external money flowing into the district and borough races. I mean, I thought that's what ballot measure number 2 was supposed to fix. No more dark money, right? I mean, come on. Westinghouse presented it back in February. Heated by what, says Terry? It's heated by electricity. They take excess electricity, they pour it into the heat, and then they take it back out later. It's very cool. Or it could be filled with angry pixies, as Brian said. That's absolutely a scientific fact that you could fill that concrete with angry pixies and it would heat it up. All right. That's it. Okay, I'm all caught up on the comments. All right, we're good. Let's get serious about this. Let's get serious and jump on over to. Did you just hear my stomach? Holy cow! Somebody said donuts and my stomach just growled. Let's go over to the green room. We'll pull Maggie out of it and test her audio, make sure everything's good. And whew, there she is. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm wonderful. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thanks for coming on board. I hope you enjoyed the donuts and the cigars. It's just it's the least I could do in the green room. How are you all ready to go this morning? You ready to dive into this?
I am.
Okay. Good. All right. Well, we're about 2.5 minutes out from doing it. Do me a favor. If you have I'm just looking at your camera. If you've got a cloth, wipe the camera lens of your camera, because I got a big flare from there's a fingerprint there. Oh, hey, look at that. It's clean. I know, it's like every time I use my camera on my phone, I'm like, why do I look like oh, it's because I got ear boogers or something on it. And you know what? Hey, it's all clean, so it's all good. All right. So this is a heck of a race, Maggie. I got to tell you, watching what's going on, this is a heck of a race. And we were just talking about the outside money and everything else. The fundraising looking at the APOC reports has been very interesting to see who's raising funds and what. You guys are kind of the underdogs at this point.
We are, but we also are honest, and I think that the honesty is what's going to get us voted in.
Yeah,
we're not lying when we say that we're student focused. I think that Mrs. Smith and I did a really exceptional job the past 3 years. I don't think that we need Planned Parenthood money,
Right. No, exactly. I think I'm with you on that 100%. So, okay. Well, here we are about 90 seconds out. I'm going to, I suppose I should throw up all the branding and everything so people know who you are when they join. And, I suppose I should change it so that you're also a candidate for school board, I actually have to be able to talk and type at the same time. Look at that. It's all perfect. Okay. All right. Well, Maggie, hold the line for a second. We're about to jump back into it, and we will get things done. Folks, do me a favor, please. Like the show and share the show wherever you're watching. If you're watching on Facebook or YouTube or Twitch, just like and share and do all that kind of stuff. It helps people we need more people involved. Remember, getting this stuff done at the local level and getting people to pay attention is the important part. Because I mean, you can't affect what's going on in Washington, D.C. Just forget about that. You should paying attention to what's going on in your school boards, your communities, your city councils, your assemblies, et cetera, et cetera. All right. So here we go. 20 seconds out. Rejoining the radio. Ready to do it. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense. Liberty-based. Free thinking radio. Like and share. Like and follow. Subscribe. Ring the bell. Do all the YouTube-y stuff. Let's get to it. Here we go. 3, 2.
Public enema number 1. Oh, wait, sorry. Public enemy number 1, which makes more sense. On the other hand, he's a little bit of a pain in the Michael Duke Show.
I am not. I am not. My mom may have said that, but she was wrong. I'm never a pain in the anything. All right, we're ready to do this here. We're talking about local stuff. We're focusing on the interior today, and we're talking about the school board race. Maggie Matheson is our guest. She is a candidate for school board, and we're gonna talk. She's running for re-election, so we're gonna talk about what's going on and in the schools and what's how things are gonna go. So we start off this morning. Good morning, Maggie. How are you?
Wonderful. How are you?
Good, good. I got to tell you, the races they be heating up. I mean, it's pretty crazy. The how much focus. I remember when usually you wouldn't hear a peep from a school board member during a local election. And these days, it seems that the schools have become a hot issue. Now, that could be from COVID. It could be from kind of the disdain that some people in the education system are treating parents with. I don't know what it is. So let's talk about. I mean, when you first ran for school board, what was the reason why you got involved? Because again, not a super glamorous position, right? I mean, not like it's high visibility and everything else. So first, tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you come from, and then let's talk about how you got started here.
Well, thank you so much for having me. My name is Maggie Matheson. I am a wife and a mother. We have a blended family. So I have 3 children that I birthed, but 7 total because we're just a big family.
Wow.
Yeah.
And a cat, apparently.
That wants out and it's too cold to let him out. I'm a first generation American. My parents are from Cuba and from El Salvador. And I'm a United States veteran, United States Air Force veteran. And I received my MBA from UAF. And I ran because the first time I ran because I didn't agree with all of the lockdowns and I didn't agree with what the school board was doing. They were overreaching. It was my decision what I do with my children and their education. And that's not what was happening then. So Mrs. Smith and I did a lot of work, Mrs. Burnett, we did a lot of work at making sure that our school policies matched what the Alaska state statutes say about parental rights.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and that was it, right? That was the kind of the COVID lockdowns, the shutdowns of schools, the remote learning, the mandates and everything else. There was a lot of people that really kind of, for the first time, I think, in their life, started paying attention to what was going on, paying more attention to what was going on in their children's education. I think a lot of times people felt like it was kind of a set it and forget it, right? They would send the kids to school, make sure the kids are getting their grades and everything else, but they weren't really paying attention. And this was a little eye-opening for a lot of people and started to catch your attention. So I think a lot of people felt the way that you did, that something had to change. And then we saw the pushback from various schools around the country, not just here in Alaska, but around the country, basically saying, we know better than you how to educate your children. And people were like, wait a minute. And that's kind of what happened, right? I mean, I know that's what Melissa Burnett, that was one of the reasons why she was feeling that way, and she jumped in there. So give us a little bit of a track record of what you've done. Give us a little bit of a track record over what you've done since you've been in the school board, and what you're hoping to accomplish as you move forward.
So, wow, we've done a lot, and the parental policy, the parental rights policies is one of the most recent ones. I've been on the budget committee. I've been the chair for the budget committee, making sure that we present a fiscally responsible budget. I've been on the diversity committee. I've chaired their diversity committee and the curriculum committee, making sure that we're presenting curriculum that meets the federal and state standards and that doesn't have ideologies in it. That's the biggest thing.
That's one of my understanding is that the curriculum is that there's a challenge right now in the curriculum that they have. We're missing simple things like civics and how the government works and everything else, but we have a chock full of different ideologies, and that's another thing that the people, the parents are kind of rebelling against. What are we doing in the curriculum in the Fairbanks North Star Borough? What's happening? What's happening there?
So, so we've got a curriculum committee that they go through the books, they go through the curriculum, they go through the standards, the federal and state standards, and make sure that what we present to the board is a healthy curriculum that meets the standards. And it's a board made up of educators, of parents, of staff, of community stakeholders, so that we get well-rounded advice from the community.
Right.
And that's what gets presented to the school board. So it's not, I don't get to choose the curriculum. And
No, you're just part of the process, right? I mean, you get the input into the process. And is the curriculum what you'd like to see right now? I mean, do we have a good curriculum, or is there still more work to do in that?
I think that there's still more work to do. So I don't know if you've heard about some of the books in the library.
Oh yeah. I've read some
and-
excerpts. I can't read the excerpts on the air, but I can read them to myself, but yeah, it's not something I could actually read on a radio station without getting a license, a licensed fine.
Yeah. And so if we can't read it on the air, it shouldn't be in our schools. I'm not saying ban books from the library. I know that that's what the other side is trying to
Oh
say,
yeah.
that
Yeah.
Mrs. Smith and I are book banners and book burners. We're
Yeah.
not.
Yeah, you
We
wanna
don't.
pile up all the knowledge and set a match to it, right?
Right. And that's not the case. We don't want pornography in our schools. And I think that's the very basic. I don't understand
If
why
if
we
people
would want.
if people in a school board meeting get uncomfortable when a parent starts reading from these books and they ask the
Yeah.
children to leave the room, I have questions about why that same book is in a children's library in a school, right?
Mhm. And so I feel like Mrs. Smith and I have been diligent about any books that are presented to us. We try to read them all the way through, make sure that, and we haven't banned a book from the school district yet, um, but we're trying to be diligent, and we're trying to make sure that the things that we do present to either remove or keep at the schools, that we are knowledgeable of it. It's a lot of work. It's very interesting, but we're doing it.
Maggie, what do you think is the biggest challenge facing the Fairbanks school districts right now? And what have you been trying to do to alleviate those problems as a member of the school board? What are the biggest challenges facing the Fairbanks North Starborough School District that Fairbanks parents need to know about?
I think that parental involvement is the biggest challenge. When we send out a survey and we send it out to the whole community and we get 12% parental involvement on those surveys, the school district sees that as a huge win because the bar has been set so low. So I think that we need to get more parents involved, not just survey taking, but going into the schools and actually seeing what your students are learning, getting to know your teachers. Teachers, our instructors at the schools, our educators, what they want is a relationship with not just students but with parents, so that we can educate our students, not just it's not one-sided, you know. So I think that that's the
Right.
biggest challenge. I tell everyone about every single event that I know of that's happening at the schools. I try to I don't have a student that's in a brick and mortar school right now, and I still try to attend all of the football games, all of the concerts, any plays. Like, we have students that are so talented in so many different ways that we need to celebrate them. We need to support them. We need to be there.
Yeah. Well, it's difficult. I mean, I've often argued that people, the problem. This is how I see it, and you can comment on whether or not you think that I'm right or not. The problem is that we're in a battle for the hearts and minds of our children right now. I mean, we're in a
Hmm.
battle for teaching them the idea. We've forgotten how to teach children how to learn. We're kind of got them in this rote process instead of teaching them in the
Hmm.
classical style of the trivium of logic, rhetoric, and reason kind of thing. We're not teaching them how to learn, and so instead we're just filling them with all this kind of rote stuff. And if you want to fight and change things, that's great. But I've been advocating for people to homeschool their kids. Don't put your kids in the middle of the battlefield while you're trying to fight the battle. You know what I mean? Bring them home, teach them at home, and then go fight the battle so that they can, be safe. But I know some people just don't have that option. But more parents do need to get involved. And
Hmm.
I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to get that involvement to turn that knob up to get more people to pay attention because, we're busy, we got lives to lead, we're trying to make a living, we're doing their jobs and everything else. And I think some people have become dependent on the school system basically to become a glorified babysitter, and it's like it's not my job to teach my kids, it's their job to teach the kids, which is great until they start teaching your kids stuff that you're like, whoa, wait a second, right?
Hmm. Um, my children have all gone to early Head Start and Head Start, and that's through the Fairbanks Native Association. And one of the beautiful things that I was taught early on was that education is a partnership. It's not one-sided. I can't depend on teachers and educators to teach my children because we need to like homework. We need to practice it at home. So my
Right.
job as their mom was to help them with their homework, read to them, spend time with them, ask them about their day. There was a social studies class maybe about 6 years ago that I did not agree with. Being a first generation American, I understand what Nike in El Salvador will do. And there was a teacher that was talking about how the work conditions were awful. No, it actually keeps people from being trafficked. And you're teaching them one way. I'm not okay with that. And being able to sit down with her and tell her, that I didn't agree with what she was saying, opened up the door for my children to challenge things that they didn't think was right,
Right.
and it empowers our children to debate and to question something that our society is uncomfortable with.
Right.
Nobody wants to debate. When we ask a question, we can't get a direct answer. It's extremely frustrating. We need to teach our children how to debate, and we need to teach our children how to advocate for themselves.
Right. Well, I mean, that's the whole rhetoric component of the trivium of the whole three things that we need to be able to do. They need to be able to articulate and argue a point,
Hmm.
which is not encouraged in school today. It's definitely not encouraged.
Right.
But again, we look at the results, Maggie. Here's the problem: the results of this in the end is we've got students in this state who are at the lowest percentile in reading scores, in math scores, and all we ever seem to hear from everybody in education, from the teachers and the administrators, the unions, and down to the boards is, oh, if we just had more money, we could make it happen. But we've poured ever increasing amounts of money into the school system, and we're still getting the same kind of result. We've got a 25%, 24%, 23%, something like that don't even graduate. Right? Your graduation
Yeah.
rate's in the 75, 76 percentile, and
Right.
most of them can't read at grade level. And our grade school kids are in the lowest percentile for math and reading. There's some problems here, and we've got to figure out what it is.
Yeah. I think we're focusing too much on DEI, and I feel that the DEI that we're promoting is very divisive instead of bringing everyone together. And we're spending money. Well, this year I guess we didn't spend money, but we were spending money on that instead of focusing on pencils and hand soap and things like that are actually going to help our children learn.
Right. I mean, so supplement. I've heard stories of workbook pages where the people they get the books, but they don't get the workbooks that you're supposed to write in. So teachers are spending money out of pocket to photocopy workbook pages and things like that for their own students and things. I'm like, wait a second, we're spending millions of dollars and you guys can't provide a piece of paper for the kids to write on it's insane. And again, the DEI component of it is definitely problematic, to say the least. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back here in just a second. Don't go anywhere. Maggie Matheson is our guest, candidate for school board in the Fairbanks North Star Borough, running for re-election. We'll see what else she has to say here in a minute. We're going to talk about the direction that she would like to go and some of the changes that she would make if she were queen for a day. Back with more. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. More right after this.
Running on 100% pure beard power. Oh, also some coffee. We dip our beard in coffee.
Ha, nice beard.
The Michael Duke Show.
Okay, in the break right now, Maggie Matheson, our guest. She's a lion tamer too, animal wrangler. Everything is going on. That cat is loud. Holy cow, man! They did insistent. I want to go out now. That's good.
Oh, he is really loud.
Yeah. Maggie, I mean, the parental involvement, and somebody just said something here. Let me look up what somebody said here. That might not always, I think Lisa or Gary, whichever one it is, Lisa and Gary, they might not always be a school issue. A lot is a lack of parental engagement. So they're agreeing with you that is part of the problem. But I think part of the problem is that we've kind of lost our focus, right? We've kind of lost our focus from looking at the reading, writing, and arithmetic, especially in the younger kids, in the grade school kids. I mean, why are we teaching, diversity and all these other things to kids who are, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old when they should be learning the fundamentals that they need to then learn later on? Reading comprehension, basic math, those kind of things. Those are the things that are slipping under the radar. The kids who are in high school, maybe they are old enough to start to take on some of these bigger questions. But why are we focusing all this down in the lower levels right now when, again, they can't read a freaking book? You know what I mean? They can't pick up a Dr. Seuss book and one fish, red fish, two fish, blue fish. I mean, what happens there?
Yeah, what happens there? I mean, I feel like we're giving, like, our teachers right now are trying to make chicken salad out of chicken poo because we're not giving them the proper support that they need, not just from the district, but from the parents. I have been blessed with having some of the best kindergarten teachers ever that would not only give my children homework, but they would give me homework. Like, hey, this is what your son is struggling with. Why don't we work through this? And that's one of my sons right there. But we need to be involved. As parents, we need to be involved.
Yeah. Well, and again, I don't know what the answer is to that. I don't necessarily think it's a governmental function to get more parents involved. I don't know how you get them to care more or do, again, I don't really have any experience in this because we've homeschooled our kids the entire time. All my kids are now out of school. My youngest just graduated this last year, and we put 5 kids through homeschool. So I guess you'd say we were the ultimately involved parents, right? Because we did it directly. But I don't know how to get that message out there to people to, that you need to start paying attention to what's going on and looking at this. I wish there was a way to, wave a magic wand and get, have people go like, hey, over here, pay attention. But you can't do it. So that's why we have to have folks like you in the system fighting for the parents that aren't paying attention in the long run.
Well, and some of them just can't. I mean, with having to work multiple jobs, and I understand that, but we also have grandparents that can be involved. We have aunts and uncles. And I can tell you there was a time where my sister lived up here, and she helped my husband and myself raise our children because we were so because when we first got married, we were so poor and we had to work crazy hours,
Sure.
In order to get there. And my sister, I'm so grateful for her. She stepped in and she went to school and got the homeworks and found out what our boys needed in order to succeed, and then brought it home and explained it all to us so that we could be a part of that,
Yeah. Well, and again, I wish there was a magic wand wave to get more people involved in that, but there's not. But it's good to see that there's folks who are in the school board who are fighting those changes. I don't want to get too far in the weeds here because I don't want to repeat ourselves for the podcast here. So we want to make sure we're about to rejoin the radio here in about a minute or so. How long have you been in Alaska, Maggie? How long have you been up here?
25 years.
25 years.
Yeah, I've been here longer than I've been anywhere else.
Well, did you come here with your husband, or did you meet him up here? Or?
No, I told the Air Force to send me anywhere but Alaska, so they sent me to Eielson. And
It's never a good idea. Never a good idea.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. What's your preferred places and where do you not want to go? Don't ever answer that questionnaire in a military form. Ever.
But I love it here. I wouldn't want to raise my children anywhere else.
Yeah. Well, I do. Yeah. Alaska. I used to say nowhere but Fairbanks. And then I moved from Fairbanks and I'm like, nowhere but Alaska. There is life after Fairbanks. I love Fairbanks, but man, those 40, 50 more winters.
Yeah. Hand him to me so that he's not whining like that.
She's gonna hold the cat. All right, here we go. We're 20 seconds out. We're going to my God, that cat's a monster. All right, we're gonna be back here. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Like, share, follow, subscribe, ring the bell. Let's get to it. Here we go.
The Michael Duke Show. Not your daddy. Wait, sorry. Not your daddy? Ooh, not your daddy's talk radio. Whew. I was scared for a second. Thought we were going down. Here's Michael Dukes and the show.
That's right. I'm not your daddy. I mean, I am a daddy, but I'm not your. My daddy's in the chat room. Does that count? He's in there. It's not his talk radio show either. It's mine. Good morning. Welcome back to the program, The Michael Duke Show. We're having conversations about local races. And it don't get more local or more lowly. I mean, I guess you could say it's the lowest level of elected government service in the state, and that is the school board. And that, of course, it's ironic to me that the school board, being the lowest level of elected office, is, to my mind, also one of the most important because you're molding and you're working on the system that shapes and molds our children. And I find that to be important. Maggie, a couple things. I want to start off with waving. I have this magical wand that basically makes you whatever I want to make you. So you're back on the school board. You got reelected. What is the next 2 years look like for Maggie Matheson on the school board as what is your focus going to be? What are you going to be targeting and going after? What changes would you like to see that you think the folks out there, the electorate, needs to hear about?
Thank you for asking that. It's something that's actually really heavy on my mind a lot of the time. Back in the 70s, I think it was 74 or 75, we got rid of the CTE programs in our schools. Our students were graduating.
CTE, explain to people what CTE is because we're not in on the lingo. So this is career tech, right? Education.
Yeah, it is.
OTech.
Right. It's either avionics, mechanical, electrical, carpentry, those, the hands-on stuff. Well, we got rid of it in the nation. And so the men in our society were unable to care for their families, which was one of the points that started breaking up families,
because they were taught blue collar, hands-on trades, things that
Exactly.
they could do. We talk a lot about vocational education on this program because I believe it is one of the fact that and you're right, in the 70s and 80s, they started to look at it like with disdain, like, oh, you're
Exactly.
you're just an electrician. Oh, you're just a plumber. Yeah,
Hmm.
lady, that plumber makes $100,000 a year and doesn't have the $250,000 in school debt. And
Yes.
he's fixing your toilet because you don't know how, right?
Hmm.
But that you're right. It was kind of this disdain, and they kind of shut a lot of those programs down, and they really stopped doing anything with it. Even when I was in high school in the 80s, and there was an auto shop class, but quite honestly, I mean, I learned I knew more about engines and cars and things like that because I had an interest in it than the auto shop class taught. It wasn't really a voc ed class. It was more like an elective, kind of thing.
Hmm. And so I'm in the talks with with our alternate schools. So, the homeschool program,
Right.
they do the CEC programs, the CTE programs, all of those. Um, in order to get, and I'm in medicine. I've worked in that since I was in the Air Force. So I only know that aspect of it, but I'm hoping to bridge a gap. Right now we don't have enough CNAs, MAs, or dental assistants in our community, and that's nationwide. It's not just
Right.
our community.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm hoping that we can get a program in the high schools, to have our students graduate not just with their high school diploma, but with a certificate showing that they've completed the work, and they can be a dental assistant, a certified dental assistant, or a certified medical assistant.
Right.
So that's what I'm working on. That's one of the projects I'm working on. Another one is um, my youngest is super, super bougie when it comes to food. And he sends me a picture of pizza and he's like, Mom, we need to fix this. We can't have junk food for lunch every day. And I was like,
Right.
oh. The school district, they have they just received funding for one of the alternative programs to buy grow towers and start growing their vegetables in the schools. And so we're hoping that we can get that started in the high schools, and that'll help. It'll help with some of the problems that we're having in having healthy alternatives for lunch.
Right. Well, culinary programs, right? I mean, you've got culinary programs, you've got AvTech and VOTech programs, you've got mechanical programs, you've got all these things that, kids who show an aptitude or an interest in that. I mean, we need to stop this pipeline to poverty of,
Mhm.
go to high school, get a good education, then go to college and put yourself in tremendous debt for 4 years to have another 4 years that you're not in the workforce, not learning on the job skills, not getting the money and everything else. I mean, I made more money being a high school graduate, and in 4 years after I got done, I was making more money than most of my peers who went to college and got out, and I just
Mhm.
continued to go up from there because I didn't, it's not that I didn't like college. I didn't like college because what didn't interest me in what I was doing. But it changes, and we've got to get out of this pipeline of putting people in a tremendous amount of debt and burdening them and not giving them the opportunity to explore other avenues, like, again, the careers, the technical, the VOTech stuff. I think that's hugely popular. Um, or it should be hugely popular, and is hugely important. If you've watched anything with like the MicroWorks Foundation or anything else, you know how important that stuff is to what's going on. And again, if you want your kids are like, I don't know what I can do. I can only work fast food, or I can only go work in retail for 15 or 12 or $13 an hour. Get them to that voc ed. They will find something. They can become an apprentice.
Mhm.
They can go out and build things or do whatever. All
But
right.
there's nothing wrong either with customer service.
No,
And
no, there's not. I'm just saying, we keep poo-pooing the idea, it seems like, and it's getting better. It's getting better over the last few years, but for about a 30-year period there, none of the schools, I mean, if your kid graduated high school and became a mechanic, people are like, "Oh, I'm so sorry for her kid,
right, and I can't.
he didn't go to college, he became a mechanic or a plumber or something. Oh, that's just so sad." And I'm like, "Are you kidding me? that kid will be making more money than most of the college graduates in 3 or 4 years. It's insane.
Without the debt.
Yeah, without the debt, exactly. We're running out of time real quick. I want you to give me the biggest differentiation between you and your opponent here. Give me 2 or 3 points of what makes you stand out from your opponent, and then we'll give you a chance to wrap up quickly here.
Really, what I want to focus on is student outcomes, making sure that our students are graduating and they're workforce ready, college ready, union ready, or military ready. And I don't care about DEI training. Me being Hispanic isn't going to hinder me from being successful. And I feel that the DEI trainings that we're having right now are very divisive, and they put people in categories. It doesn't matter. I'm going to do the things that I'm going to do regardless of me being a woman, me being Hispanic, whatever, my hair being a different texture than someone else's. It doesn't matter. What matters is who I am as a human being. I'm not going to disrespect anyone because of whatever their choices are. And I'm smart. So
Right.
I don't need the degree to prove that I'm smart. I'm doing that on a daily basis, making sure that I'm raising children that can actually join our community and be productive in the community.
Can function in society and not curl into a little ball and suck their thumb about their safe space. Yeah, I got that. Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, Maggie, we're down to the last minute and a half here. So here's your elevator pitch. You're standing alone in an elevator with a new person, and they're like, what do you do? I'm running for school board. Tell us why we should vote for Maggie and how to get a hold of you.
You can vote. You can get a hold of me through my email, maggie.b.matheson email.
Okay.
And I really, I want to be back on the school board so that I can finish the work that I've started. And I'm student outcome focused, and I want parental involvement. Those are my biggest things right now for the school district.
All right, Maggie Matheson, maggie.b.matheson@gmail.com. Go ahead and send her an email and vote for her, if for nothing else, to make sure that her cat gets fed or whatever it is, just so that she can go back.
He's a fat cat. He
I
eats,
know.
I swear.
He wants to go outside. All right, Maggie, thank you so much for coming on board. Hold the line for just a second here. We're going to run over the top of the hour. Folks, coming up next, Michael Humphrey, also running for the school board in Fairbanks. It's a school board day. It's a school board day. We're going to be back with more. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Duke Show. Be kind. Love one another. Live well. Back with more. Hour 2 dead ahead. All right, Maggie, is there anything, this is my final bite at the apple segment. Is there anything that we didn't get to that I didn't ask, any questions that I didn't ask, or anything else that you want to mention or talk about, any other topic or subject or something that I didn't embarrass or offend you with that you want to bring up? Whatever it is, now's the time to do it.
No, actually, thank you so much for making me feel comfortable. I was super nervous to get on the show with you today. But
because I'm scary. I'm scary. It is. It's like having a cup of coffee with somebody. This is not hard stuff. This is easy stuff, right? I mean,
yes. So thank you for making it so comfortable.
Well, no problem. We appreciate it. I mean, this is what you're doing is important, and I'm glad to see somebody stepping up. And for me, you checked all the boxes. I mean, the whole, focusing on the basics instead of DEI and other things, getting the kids, learning them, teaching them how to read, learning them how to, and we're learning them kids how to read, teaching them how to read, getting them math skills, getting them some basic skills like that. And then focusing on things like, career tech and putting that back in and making it acceptable again. That's the thing, the acceptance of making it acceptable again for somebody to say, I don't really want to go to college. That shouldn't be a crisis, dun, dun, dun moment, right? It should be something that kids can go, hey, I want to do something good. I want to do something with my hands. Good for you. That should be an important part. And I appreciate you doing all that hard work and getting it done. So Maggie, thank you so much for coming on board. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Maggie Matheson here on the program. I see that Michael Humphrey is in the green room. Again, also eating my donuts and smoking my cigars. I don't know what the heck is going on. I told him to put that box away. We are going to jump in with him here real quick. We're going to test his audio and make sure everything is good. And then we will come back to him after we restart the show here in just a few minutes. But here is Michael. Oh, a magnificent bearded. See, this is a show run on 100% pure beard power. That's what it's all about. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Amazing, Michael. How are you?
You know, I am doing good. Let me adjust your audio here just a little bit. You're a little bit loud, so we'll get going on. You're all ready for this? You're prepped and ready. You got coffee. You couldn't be any better, right?
It's early in the morning, and I'm ready to go. Yeah, I'm excited.
It's early in the morning. Yes, it is. Yes, welcome to my life. This is exactly what it's like. So for those of you who don't know, Michael was he was the guy with the walrus at the parade that won the actual float until they realized that it was a symbol that they didn't. Anyway, it's a whole thing. It was a hysterical. It was a hysterical thing. But Michael has been fighting for the kids and the school board, and trying to get things rolling on. So I'm looking forward to this conversation. Hold the. Whoa, buddy! The beard levels in here are at about 42% over acceptable safety thresholds, says Anthony. I mean, come on, that's the good stuff there. Yeah, and he's dressed for success, Debbie. You always dress for the job you want, right? That's what it's about. I mean, I never wear a suit because I don't want that job. That's what I'm saying. Polo shirt with watermelons, sure, just about my speed. That's just about where I'm at right now. All right, Michael, hold the line. I'm going to pull you back into the green room here for a second. We're going to get things ready. Let me go back. And see what you guys have been talking about. I've read some of the comments on the air, but here you go. Let's go, Maggie. Vote for Maggie. She's got my vote. Hands is really good for the boys. If you want, Brian said, if you want steady high demand work, get a NICET fire alarm certification. Apparently that's for checking and installing fire alarms. The trades are where to go. Trades are hurting for young, fresh talent right now, but all these kids are being taught incorrectly that college is the only route to success. I mean, exactly. Like I said, when a mom told another mom, "Oh yes, Johnny doesn't want to go to college. He wants to go, be a plumber." And I'm so sorry, Susie. Like it's somebody died or something. Are you kidding me? I mean, little Johnny becoming a plumber or a carpenter or a mechanic. Somebody said, who was it? I saw it as it went by. Here you go. Melissa says her high school senior makes $32 an hour as a mechanic. Hello? I mean, diesel mechanics that you want a job on the slope, working on things and doing stuff like that, making big money. There you go. Or a carpenter, or a plumber, or an electrician, or a whatever. There's so many jobs out there where they're just hungry for people. Truck driver. Find a need, fill a need. Look at where there is definitely there's definitely a slew of jobs that could use some help, that are definitely low, and there are good high-paying jobs. That just leaves all the jobs at Starbucks for the college graduates. There you go. Vote for Maggie. Thank you for all those folks who were listening for Maggie. Somebody's talking about the feral cat, the beard power. Okay, I think we're all good. Jennifer says, holy cow, everything just jumped. I love Johnny the Walrus. I want to get a picture with him, says Jennifer. Maybe that's his next campaign stop where he puts up the walrus and, $5 donation gets you a picture with a walrus or something. Johnny the Walrus. All right. Let's turn this thing around, my friends. We're ready to go. Hour 2 continues. Michael Humphrey, our guest. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free Thinking Radio. Let's get to it. Here we go.
Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Yep, live around the world on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com, where you'll find links to everything: podcast, live stream, social media sites where we simulcast the show every morning on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Also, of course, live around the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator. Good morning. If you're just joining us here in hour two, we're focused today again on local elections. Yesterday, it was everything had to do with the peninsula. We had school board members from the peninsula and assembly member people running for assembly. Today, we're back up in the interior and we're doing school boards. Again, it's ironic to me that the lowliest, quote unquote, elected office in the state is a school board position, but that's a position where we're going to send our children to be shaped and molded into new adults. We should be paying attention to these races, which is why we've invited onto the program a variety of candidates from around the state. Joining us here in hour two is Michael Humphrey, who is running for school board here or in the interior, not here in the interior because I'm in South Central, but in the interior. And he joins us this morning to discuss his candidacy, what's going on, and more. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Michael. How are you?
You know, it's just another beautiful day in paradise. I feel good about it. There's no snow yet. Any day without snow for me is okay. I know it's coming, but just don't harsh my mellow, man.
Just another day I can procrastinate before getting ready, I guess.
Exactly. Michael, so I mean, you've made a bit of a splash in the interior here with this race and talking about things. But before we get down into that, let's talk a little bit about who Michael Humphrey is. Give us who you are, where you came from, little background, and we'll move on from there.
Sure. I'm a husband, been married to my wife for 15 years, father of 6. We've had 3 kids since moving to Alaska. I'm a United States Marine. I got my degree and studied in Herzliya, Israel at Reichman University. I have a degree in government with a specialization in counterterrorism and international relations. And I'm running for school board because I'm just not happy with the way things are going. Everybody sees test scores as evidence of everything going downhill. They see the infiltration of radical ideas into the classroom, and somebody needs to stand up and say, I'm going to stand in the way and say no.
I mean, first of all, Semper Fi. Second of all, the counterterrorism bit with your education may help you in the job that you're working on right now. It's a tough situation out there, that's for sure. And I think a lot of people, I think you've hit the nail right on the head. A lot of people are looking at this. All we ever hear about is how we could do so much more if we had more money. But, you look at the test scores, you look at the graphs as to where they've been, since Sarah Palin has been in office, was in office rather, the graduation rate has only increased by about 3%. So we've got about a 76% graduation rate now. So one in 4 kids is being left behind and failed. The scores for the grade schoolers in math and reading are in the almost lowest percentile in every category that we can get. This is a tough situation, and something has got to change. And I think that at the school board, that's the place to start at this point, because something has got to change. We've got to admit that what we're doing right now is not working, and we've got to fix it.
Yeah, definitely. And you're not wrong about test scores declining. Really, the only national metrics we have, they show us that in all the categories, our best performing category, I believe, is eighth grade math. You can fact check me on that. But our best performing category, we have only a handful of states worse than us, and that's our best performing category. So things are looking down, not up, for academic excellence and for achievement. That means, the world that these kids graduate and create that we have to live in is really based around the lowest common denominator, and that's not good for anybody. That's not good for the
Right.
kids. It's not good for the people who have to live in that world.
Absolutely. Michael, what was the one thing? I mean, when I was on the borough assembly there in Fairbanks, and I remember making that decision. And for me, it was a specific thing that I was so agitated about. And I figured, I looked in the mirror and said, if not me, then who? And if not now, then when? So was there one thing that kind of tripped you over to said, I'm going to do this? I'm assuming you're living a busy life and everything else, and this is probably the last thing that most people want to do. But was there a specific thing that tripped you over, or is it a combination of things? What's caused you to lose your mind and jump into this whole madness here?
Yeah, honestly, I think it's evidenced by the parade float that you mentioned. Johnny the Walrus is really a story about the limit of children's imagination. And children have a great imagination, but in the schools, with certain teachers and certain classes, these kinds of things are blown out of proportion. Kids are made to believe things that aren't true. I've got 4 kids in the public school system, and 2 more to come when they get old enough. And I don't need them going to school to learn new values that we're not teaching them at home. They go to school to learn, and they spend a significant number of hours there a day. And I don't want that kind of indoctrination on my kids. And really, when you look in the mirror and you say, if not who, if not me, then who? A lot of people are just scared to say this kind of thing. I think saying it with Johnny the Walrus is a fun way to say kids have an imagination, but our job is not to affirm them. Our job is to guide them. And that's really what did it for me. But it all funnels back to everything that I'm talking about, and everything that I do funnels back to academic excellence. Because when they talk about things that aren't the school subjects they should be learning in the classroom, that's time they're not spending getting proficient and catching up to the grade level they should be at, and being able to perform on par with everyone else in the nation. So eliminating ideologies in the classroom really is just about improving academic performance overall.
You mentioned Johnny the Walrus. Now, for those, he's a character out of a book by the Tuttle twins, right?
Matt Walsh, actually.
Matt Walsh. I'm sorry, Matt Walsh, not the Tuttle twins. Yeah, Matt Walsh. And you put him on a float for the Golden Days Parade, which is an annual parade held in Fairbanks in July to celebrate Fairbanks and the community. And you actually won most inspiring or best float, or you won some prize for it, until somebody figured out that it was a character from a Matt Walsh book, and then people started to lose their mind because it was apparently ideology driven, but it captured people's imagination. And that's what kind of got me, was even the people who didn't know what it meant were excited about it until they figured out that, oh, this may stand for something that I'm not. The furor over this was kind of crazy.
Well, I'll admit to a little bit of naivete there. It's a best-selling book. It's got almost 8,000 reviews on Amazon, almost 5 stars. It's been on bestseller lists. It's for a kid's cardboard flip book. It's incredibly popular. So to have a walrus with a specific name on it, to me, is a no-brainer. I just assumed that everybody would understand. Besides, I was in the best political float category. And then the judges came out and say, well, it's not about the best float. It's about whether or not I agree with it. And if I'd known what it was, I wouldn't have awarded the prize for best political float. But you're right. Along the parade route, we got thousands of comments about how amazing it was. It was, a real traditional parade float, the kind of thing that you expect to see in a parade, and we put a lot of effort into it. My family
Right.
was out there walking with me, and it was a great time. And hopefully, it got people to really, who didn't already know about Johnny the Walrus, it got them to look and understand that, sometimes kids have interesting ideas, but it's our job as parents to guide them and not to indulge every fantasy that they have.
Michael Humphrey is our guest running for Fairbanks School Board. If you could concise down the problems that you're seeing in the school board right now, maybe the hot button 2 or 3 issues that need to be addressed. Obviously, I think obviously based on what we just talked about, we know one, but give me a concise, a lineup of the things that you see in the school board that you think need to be addressed right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to applaud Maggie Matheson and April Smith and Melissa Burnett for the work they've done. The problem is they're outnumbered, and so they need reinforcements. The problems I see, number one, is the creeping of these radical ideologies. It comes in various forms. It's not in the official curriculum, of course, just like they say critical race theory and these kinds of things. They're not in the curriculum. They still make their way into the classroom. And that happens in all sorts of forms. I've said recently in the Newsminer that the only flags in a classroom should be the American flag and the Alaska flag, and that's one way to clamp down on that. Second is parental involvement, and I know Maggie talked about this earlier this morning. I've been beating the drum on parental involvement. Homeschool kids do amazing, and it's not because their parents are professional educators. It's because there's real buy-in from people in their lives. When you send kids to school, like you said, Michael, it's kind of a set it and forget it thing. You expect them to go learn, come back, and rinse and repeat the next day a lot of times. But parents need to be involved. They need to know their teachers. They need to know what's happening in the classroom. They need more opportunities to volunteer. Schools should be required to put out weekly flyers or sign up sheets for all sorts of volunteer opportunities just to get parents who are able into the classroom. The more parental buy-in you can get, the less students will misbehave, the more invested everyone will be in their education. And then third is budget stability. Everybody says we need more dollars, and that's probably true. More money, though, only makes things easier. Most studies that you look at will show no direct correlation between spending and academic achievement, and that's because it's not really about how much money you have, but how you spend it. I know the borough and the taxpayers are going to be significantly less likely to want to give us more money up to the cap if we're not proving that we're spending that money wisely. If we're not showing that it's not going to these radical initiatives, they're not going to be willing. They're going to fund it 77% of the cap, which is the average. And if that's the case, we need to have that stability. We need to have an idea of what it's going to be, and we need to plan for that on year-round budget cycles instead of just waiting to the last minute to make a bunch of rash decisions. So budget stability is really key, whether or not that comes with additional monies.
Well, it's interesting because, again, if you look at the statistics and you see, I know we've heard a lot in the newspapers, in the public, from talking heads, from politicians, basically all saying, oh, education has been flat funded for this and flat. But the actual, they're talking about specifically the BSA. They're not talking about all education spending. Education spending over the last 20 years has gone up like almost 30% overall. And yet our scholastic achievement scores continue to decline. Our graduation rate has remained nearly motionless, with 1 in 4 children being left behind. Many of those graduates can't go to college and take a 100 level math class. Many of them, over 60%, have to get tutoring on top of that. Many of them can't read at grade level. So we've increased the funding. We're spending, $16, $17, $18,000 per child, and we're failing. We're getting, they're producing a product that is subpar. How is more money going to fix that? Now, maybe is it more money getting directly into the classroom instead of getting into the overhead and the administration, adding another counselor, adding another janitor, instead making sure that we're actually getting materials in the classroom? What is the answer there?
Well, and we don't have to make these decisions in a vacuum. We can learn from everybody else who's made these mistakes. I don't know if you saw the article over the weekend about Baltimore public schools, but in Maryland, they are the most dollars per student in the entire state by a long shot. Their CEO of the school system makes $450,000 a year. They received, I believe, I know there's a crazy number, they received $800 million in COVID funding, and they have by far the lowest test scores of any school district in the state. So we don't have to make these decisions in a vacuum. There is one thing that we can do in order to spend the money wisely to improve academic performance, which again is the goal, and that's lower class sizes. That's really the only thing where you're going to put dollars that's actually going to result in increased student performance. So whatever we've got to do to make that happen, whatever else needs to get cut or pared down, or whatever options need to get eliminated, that needs to happen because lower class sizes are where it's at.
Michael Humphrey is our guest, candidate for Fairbanks North Star Borough School Board. We're going to continue here in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Dukes Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We will continue with more and Michael Humphrey right after these messages. Don't go anywhere.
We're broadcasting live through a series of tubes,
allowing all of these entities to provide streaming stuff going on the internet.
Well, it's kind of hard to explain. Sorry. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay, we're in the break right now, and we're ready to go. Michael's changed rooms on us all of a sudden. Boom, there we go, brick wall. It's all good. Michael Humphrey, our guest here on the program. Lining the pockets of the administration, says Denise. That's one of the things that, and we've seen that. I mean, the Baltimore story is, I had not seen that story, but it does not surprise me that we have. I mean, if you look at the scholastic scores, the funding scores, and the administration versus teaching staff's graphs, and you put them all on one graph, it's amazing to watch. You know, funding for schools has continually increased. Scholastic scores have continually decreased. The administrative overhead and the number of administrators versus teacher has gone like this. Teachers are going like this. I mean, I think that there's some correlation in all those things. When I was in high school, it was mostly teachers, right? You had a guidance counselor, you had a principal and a vice principal, you had the office staff, and that was pretty much it. I think there was like 1 or 2 guidance counselors in the whole thing. Most of it was teacher. You had 50 teachers and 8 staff. And now it's, you know, it's changed dramatically to where in some cases it's, you know, it's 2 or 3 staff for a single teacher. That's insane. Yeah. That's insane.
Yeah, and it's also the administrative staff that you just don't see. You know, they don't go to the schools. They're downtown working in offices doing who knows what. And I know that they also need to provide for their families, but we have way too many administrative staff and not enough teachers because, like I said, you're not going to improve student performance through more administrators. You are going to improve student performance by lowering class sizes.
Absolutely. I mean, that's proven out. That's proven out by homeschoolers because that is the ultimate low class size, right? 1-on-1, 2-on-1, that kind of thing. And you know, how much of it? Well, actually, I'll hold that question for when we get back because I want the folks on the radio to hear it. Give us a little bit more of your background, Mike. You said you moved up here. You had 3 kids since you've been here. Where'd you come from originally?
Yeah, so I grew up in Arkansas, small town of about 25,000 people. Out of there, I joined the Marine Corps, came back to work in Arkansas for a little bit. I went to school in Israel for 3 years, met my wife going to school there at the same time. She's Israeli, had just gotten out of the Israeli army. And so we got married and then moved back to the States. We spent a little bit of time in Arkansas looking for cold weather and open spaces. We went to Wyoming, which was great, but really Alaska is where it's at. So, you know, when I was looking for where to go, cold weather and open spaces, Fairbanks was the ticket. So.
My God, man, cold weather and open spaces. That's you are a glutton for punishment for sure. That you know, I spent 45 years in Fairbanks, and then the warden gave me the parole I could leave. So I moved down to the subtropical Matsu here, where it's a little bit nicer. But I got to tell you, you're right. Alaska is the way to go. Alaska definitely is the way to go. But it's good to see, you know, importing good talent into what's going on. You've got children. Your children are in school? You're not homeschooling, right? Your children are all in the school system. So you've got a dog. You've got a dog in the fight, so to speak, on this. Talk for a minute here. We got about a minute before we rejoin. Talk for a minute here about a little bit of the blowback on the parade float thing. Was that a positive for you? A net positive? Was it a negative? What was the overall feel on that?
Yeah, I've got so many amazing comments. You know, it made the Matt Walsh show. We got a lot of national exposure. I got messages of support from all around the country. That was amazing. People saying, you know, I wish I could do this kind of thing in my hometown. I did get a lot of heat for it. A lot of, you know, the news minor at work, that kind of thing. but nothing that couldn't weather. So a lot of people want to go from please don't teach my kid your fantasies and your values to, oh, that means he hates certain kids and wants them to die. So it's a logical leap that I just can't make, and I'm not sure how they
Yeah.
get there.
Well, that's an insane. I mean, that's an ad hominem straw man argument right there. Just because I don't agree with it does not mean that I want people to die. But that's kind of the extremes that we're reaching these days, where you can't agree to disagree. If you don't agree with me, you are obviously the enemy, and you want people to die. That's kind of the reaction that a lot of people get, and it's crazy. All right, we're 10 seconds out. We're ready to go. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Like and share, like and follow. Let's get going right now.
The Michael Duke Show. Seriously humorous with a pinch of intellect. Sorry. That is humorous. Here's Michael Dukes.
It's a pinch. I mean, just depends. A little dab will do you. Back with more. The Michael Duke Show continues. Michael Humphrey, our guest candidate for Fairbanks North Star Borough School District. Michael, one of the things, of course, that has driven a lot of interest in schools, in what's going on in the school board races around the country, not just in Alaska, but around the country, of course, came out of COVID, because people saw school systems make, in some cases, horrendous decisions. I mean, in the case of California, they fought actually opening schools back up before they got some quid pro quo on some equity things and social justice stuff and everything else. Meanwhile, the students were suffering. What is your take on how the Fairbanks North Star Borough did on the COVID time? Was that part of your reason for wanting to join this race? Give us your thoughts on how that was handled and what you would have done differently, et cetera.
Yeah, COVID was interesting. I give people about 3 months. 3 months to hear the data that's coming out and be a little concerned and a little uncertain. The government was telling us it's nothing like we've ever faced before. But after 3 months, the data was there. And the data said that masking was ineffective. Now we've seen the Cochrane review, the most comprehensive review, gold standard study of all the studies that have ever been done, showing that masking has 0% efficacy. So, we've seen that been spun at the national level, but masking doesn't work. And we've known that since around the first 3 months, if you didn't have an intuition about that before. Same with vaccines. I'm glad that they didn't end up with some kind of vaccine mandate at the school level. My kids obviously would have been out at that point, but not everybody can afford to just pull their kids out of school. So that would have been devastating. It would have violated all sorts of, right of conscience and informed consent and that kind of thing. But the vaccines also, kids 18 and under being seriously harmed from COVID are drastically low. Those numbers, it's not a conspiracy to say that that the common cold or the flu, I guess, is as devastating as COVID or even more devastating than COVID for kids 18 and under. That's not a conspiracy anymore. We have the data. There's some data to suggest that the people 65 and older could benefit from the vaccine, but with all the health side effects that we're seeing now, I'm not even sure that makes sense. But they just didn't trust us to look at the data and come to our own conclusions. They said, sure, the data says this, but our recommendation at the state level, especially, is kids should be universally masked. We should close schools, if we can, that kind of stuff. And it didn't make sense. It never made sense. You're seeing around the country that kids are grade levels behind where they should be, and COVID is a big part of that.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was the greatest loss of learning in our country's history. Over those, that 2-year period. Some schools were closed down for almost 2 full years. They had some remote learning and everything else, but going back to in-person brick and mortar, some places it was 2 years. In Alaska, we were usually, we were a lot shorter than that in Alaska in most places. But it was, this is an important time, and it was important not just for the kids, but also for the economy, for parents to be able to go back to work and do things like that. But it was important. Fairbanks obviously had some remote learning and other things. Did that work for you and your family during that time?
Absolutely not. I mean, I love our school, but we had teachers showing up incredibly late to class. The learning just wasn't there. If you think that oftentimes in-person learning is too cookie cutter, imagine when you've just got a couple icons on a screen. It was it was the most depersonalized learning experience. The kids didn't pick up a lot from that. My wife stays at home, so we had the luxury of her working with the kids to get their reading levels where they needed to be, and that kind of thing. But most people didn't have that luxury, and it was devastating. Uh, I understand that some of the school board people on the school board had trouble voting to return to school because they had all of these supposed experts that they're paid to make decisions in your best interest, telling you that if you open schools, people are going to die. The problem is the data just didn't support that. I think Matt Sampson was pretty good on a lot of this, but it was that was a real failure of the school district not to start classes sooner and to really throw away the education for those kids.
Well, yeah, as a sidebar, COVID, I mean, the fear mongering amongst COVID was just so astronomical, and it's fundamentally changed the way we do business in a lot of ways still today. I think people, it scared everybody into a sense of their own mortality, and we're still feeling the ripples and waves from that right now for sure. Let's talk about the what you mentioned it earlier on the DEI kind of stuff, the critical race theory, the kind of a lot of these things. I mean, my question to Maggie is the same question that I'm going to ask to you, especially in the grade schools, and especially 1 through 6, kindergarten through 6, kindergarten through middle school. I mean, shouldn't this be the time that we're teaching the kids the basics of learning, how to learn? The reading and the writing, the reasoning, logic, I mean, that kind of stuff before we start getting into philosophies and all this other stuff. I mean, it just seems like if we can't get fourth graders to be able to hit reading level proficiency, that should be the prime focus instead of cultural things and, social science things and all this other kind of stuff. Shouldn't that be the focus instead of all this ancillary stuff?
I mean, absolutely. I've been every time I get an opportunity to speak or to be interviewed, I've been preaching, rigorous academics, and that excludes a lot of the things, a lot of these critical race theory type things that you're talking about. But that's what kids need. What you'll hear from the other side, though, is what you hear again at the national level. That's not happening. That's not in our curriculum. But if it is, it's good. And so they want to talk out both sides of their mouth. They want to say that it's not officially in the curriculum, which is true. These principles and these ideas, that people should be lumped into categories based on race, and all disparity is due to race or other immutable characteristics that are the foundation of critical race theory. These make their way into the classroom, and the people on the other side, my opponent and others, they want them in the classroom. This is the kind of thing they're perfectly willing to say that's not in our curriculum, but we wish it was. And there's no reason for that kind of thing to be in public schools, grades 1 through 6 or even higher.
No, I mean, especially, I would say, the only time I would think that something, even a debate on, here's the problem though, there is no debate. They're laying these things out as if they're fact. And if somebody challenges them on it, and of course, most children, the younger children, are not going to do that. Maybe in high school, they have the ability, if they've been taught correctly, to debate and question and do that kind of stuff. But even at that point, you've got a person in position of authority who's pushing these ideals, and people wonder why their kids come home and they're talking totally different than what their own personal family beliefs are. It's not surprising when that kind of stuff is being forced down their throat instead of teaching the basics, again, of, grammar, logic, rhetoric, the trivium of kind of rational thought, the classical style education.
Well, and the other side, they love to play with vocabulary. We see this all the time. They change words to mean different things so that it sounds palatable to the general audience. You'll hear everybody on the other side talk about respect and inclusion and diversity. These are all great concepts. I mean, no one believes that students should be disrespected, but that's not what they mean. What they mean is that these concepts need to be taught to everyone so that they can learn this compulsory speech of new pronouns. They can learn these ideals to talk about these new values in the terminology that the left wants them to learn. So, they say great things if you just look at face value. But the second you get into how is that going to happen, they lose the plot. We had a League of Women Voters forum recently. And at the end of the forum, we got the opportunity to ask our opponent a question. And my question for Tim Doran, my opponent, was very simple. He had 60 seconds to answer, and it should have taken him 3 seconds. And I said, please don't give me a cutesy story. It's a direct question. A direct answer would be nice. How many genders are there? Now, a lot of people say, what's that have to do with anything? Well, it speaks to values. It speaks to what you want students to learn. Your
Right.
value system is necessarily going to be imparted in your decision making. In
Sure.
60 seconds, he didn't give one number. It's easy enough to say two, but in 60 seconds, he couldn't say 35 like he likes to say usually. He wouldn't give a number. He won't do that to a broad audience. So,
Right. No, because again, he knows in his heart how ridiculous that sounds. And
exactly.
those kind of questions are pertinent because it goes back to the personal philosophy that a person is operating under. And if you're making decisions for, in this case, our school systems, we want to know what your personal philosophies are because we know that they will inform your decision making process. It's not an unfair out of bounds question. It is a correct question. And again, my whole point is going back to the lowest grades, especially where we are ultimately failing with our achievement scores in the lowest percentile for almost every category there is. Why are we not focusing on those things and putting the rest of this stuff aside? Even if you say, we'll just fight this out in the high school arena, but everything else, we need to focus on this. It seems like anytime you bring that up, it's like you just hate children at that point. I know I love children. I want them to learn. I want them to read. I want them to achieve. And you're a
Yeah.
factory producing a product that is subpar. Something's got to change.
Well, they set up another straw man at the same forum for loving or hating children. And the question was, should there be, if the budget was there, should there be early childhood education? And everybody knows that pre-K education has a dramatic impact on academic performance. So why wouldn't somebody say yes to that unless they hate kids? Well, I don't want the government hooks in my kids that early. I mean, I barely want them the government hooks in my kids at all. But of course, the other side, even though they say we've cut the budget to the bone, they've never met a spending priority they didn't like. Of course, they want early childhood education along with, high elementary school through high school, free community college. They want all of that because they want the government influence on your kids as long as possible. I actually took a nuanced approach. I said, if the budget was there, it's not, but if it is, sure, because that dramatically improves, academic performance with the caveat of a full voucher system because I don't want parents having to send their pre-K kids to a school that's going to indoctrinate them and they're forced by geography to end up at a certain school. But a full voucher system would make sure that the best ideas win. And if there was a budget for pre-K, that's a good way to do it. But that's not something they would ever be in favor of.
We're talking with Michael Humphrey, candidate for the Fairbanks North Star Borough School Board. Michael, if I waved my magic wand and made you king for a day, what would the changes be as a school board member that you would focus on and want to make? If you could just, ramrod something through, what would be the changes that you would make if you had control of that situation? Give me a couple of them, and then we're going to close things out.
Yeah, if I'm complete dictator and I can do whatever I want. I think it's pretty easy along the same lines of what I've already said. We're going to have school with measurable academics. Kids that don't perform get extra help. Classroom sizes would be, down to an optimal number, not the 35 plus we're seeing in a lot of places. Research shows somewhere 18 to 22. It depends on who you talk to on what the optimal number is. But we'd see classroom sizes be much better. We'd see no level of indoctrination in the schools. The teachers wouldn't be allowed to bring their political theories and religions into the classroom. And then, one of the things I've also talked about that really nobody likes to talk about is a lot of times the teachers, they don't have the disciplinary options available to them to deal with unruly kids. Now, I realize we're required to provide an education to every kid in the district, but there should be more options available for teachers. When you have an unruly kid, and one of my kids has dealt with this in their class, but when you have an unruly kid, it ruins the experience for everyone. And when the teacher's hands are tied, that just means less learning for everybody all around, frustration for the teacher. If we don't give the teachers more tools to deal with that, of course they're going to be less productive in the classroom. So
Yeah,
there's a lot of great things I would do, but a lot of them would revolve around the traditional approach to education.
This race is obviously important enough that groups from outside Washington, D.C. and other places are pouring money into a local school board race in Fairbanks, Alaska. How does that affect you? I mean, are you thinking about that? Are you seeing that? And how can people help you offset that?
Yeah, and I got a lot of national attention for the parade float, and I received a lot of donations from outside the state $5, $10, $20 donations. It was great. It was grassroots people saying, I love what you're doing. I wish I could do more, but this is all I can do. And that was heartwarming to see. The other side has PACs that are funded from outside Alaska. Mostly, I think there's Putting Alaskans First, it looks like is a AFL-CIO type front pack. But these are all funded by outside groups. They have these disclosures on their website, and they're sending out mailers. They're running ads on social media. They're just blasting the message out there. But it's not a message. What they're doing is they're blasting out personalities. They're hoping that no one realizes how radical the other side is. The other side is not a few steps down from us. They're not the moderate version of the conservatives that are running for school board. They are as far left as you can imagine. They want, when they say something like comprehensive sex education, that's code for every single crazy sex theory you can think of. That's the kind of stuff they want in schools. And, they want all books to be available in libraries, no matter the content, images or text or otherwise. I don't want pornography in schools. But the other side is as far radical as you can get, and they're being funded, like you said, largely by outside interests.
60 seconds, Michael. It's your elevator pitch. You've bumped into me in the elevator, convinced me to vote for you for school board. How do we get a hold of you? All that kind of stuff. Go ahead and give it to me.
Yeah, great. Again, Michael Humphrey, running for Fairbanks North Star Borough school board seat E against Tim Doran, who is a radical leftist. He's been in schools for 40 years, and during that time, we've seen test scores decline. I want to get back to the basics, back to the rigorous academics. I want test scores to improve so that students become productive members of society, whether that's going straight to the workforce or to college for people that makes sense for. And I want more parental involvements in schools. Parents are the ultimate check on teachers and curriculums and what's going on. And if we can do that, we can have schools that we're proud of, that produce students that can perform.
All right, Michael Humphrey, thank you so much. I appreciate you coming on board and joining us today. Good stuff. I hope we get a lot of folks out there to vote, and hopefully we can make a difference. Hold the line for just a second, folks. We got more coming on. One final segment, my commentary and thoughts on the elections around the state. That's dead ahead, the Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio.
What is that?
Common Sense. Regularly heard on American radio. Michael Duke Show. Radio.
Okay, final bite at the apple here, Michael. If there's anything that I didn't get to, any topic that I didn't bring up, or something that you had wished that I had asked, now's the time to bring it forward and give you a little bit longer to make your final pitch as well. So anything there that we missed, or any topic that we should hit on?
Yeah, Michael, what I'm really concerned about is you've got these people on the other side that in public, they're never going to talk about what they really want. Tim Doran, who I said is my opponent, he's chief among them. He is the most radical, pretending not to be a radical that I've ever seen. The guy voted for the gender supplement to the curriculum that I'm sure we've talked about numerous times. And this was a controversial supplement that the publisher added separately because they knew it was controversial, and it taught all manner of sexual theory to kids. There's just no place in the classroom for that kind of thing. I don't want my kids learning about that. I want to protect them from that. I've said before that kids who are born a sex and believe they're a different sex, those kids exist, but it doesn't mean they're right. And this kind of social contagion can't be allowed to spread. And the way you spread it is under the guise of educating, just so people know and they can talk about it. And all that does is spread that kind of social contagion. So, the other side is all for that, and they want to do that by any means possible, except they just won't say it outright. They'll change words, they'll change what they're trying to say, and they'll couch their words in terms of respect and inclusion. And it's just not true.
No, I find that, I find that to be 100% true. Again, the old axiom of, something that is so dreadful and fearsome of face, first reviled, then endured, then embraced. You find something out there that first it's like this is an aberration. And then, well, it's, it's okay. And then everybody's taught it. And now it's like, oh, it's okay. It's fine. It's good. It's the way that it is. And when they're trying to teach kids this and confusing, kids are already confused as it is, right? They don't have the life experience to be able to sort this stuff out. And when they're planting those kind of seeds of doubt in the kids' minds, that really, to me, is a tragedy. Absolutely a tragedy. So yeah, I'm frustrated by it. It's one of the reasons why I homeschooled all my kids, because I was concerned about this even going on 20 years ago, seeing some of the things that were being taught in classes. I still remember I pushed back against my social studies teacher in high school. Both my brother and I, she used to give out a test that would actually, we didn't know it at the time, but we figured it out later during the school year that it was actually scoring you as to what your political affiliation was in this test. And we couldn't figure out why she was trying to single us out for so many things and questions. And so we started pushing back. And even back then, you could see that kind of leftist mentality being pushed on the kids. And kids are young; they don't have a platform or a structure, a foundation to be able to fight back from. That's a problem. We should not have to be doing these kind of battles in school.
I saw a video recently that was one of these man on the street videos, and he was going around asking people, would you let your 12-year-old get a tattoo of their choosing? Every single person said no. So then he goes back and he says, would you let your 12-year-old take puberty blockers if they thought they were a different sex? Irreversible puberty blockers. Every single person said, well, yeah. I mean, kids know what they want. So it's a disconnect that's taken hold, not just with the kids, but with adults, because they get bullied, they get peer pressured into agreeing with this kind of thing, when everybody can look at it and know it's a farce. So.
Yeah. No, it's a problem and it's a challenge. And it's one of the reasons, again, why we need to be paying attention to what's going on in the school boards. And because, again, even though it is the lowest elected office, it is the one that has the largest long-term impact, because our children are the future, to quote Whitney Houston. Our children are the future. And we've got to be able to teach them well and let them lead the way. All right, Michael Humphrey, thank you so much for coming on board. We appreciate you being part of it today. Good luck. Humphrey4schoolboard.org, right?
That is correct.
All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you coming on board. Thank you for being part of it today.
Yep, my pleasure. I listen every day. So thanks, Michael.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I apologize just because, nobody should be subjected to that. All right. Thank you so much, Michael. Appreciate you calling in today. All right. Well, we got one more segment here. I'm going to do a little talking chit chat about some of these things, my thoughts on it, where we go. See, there's some real highbrow commentary in the chat room there. Wow, man, some people just got hate in their hearts. It's just, they're just here to spread hatred, discontent, and confusion. And they walk away feeling like their job is done. And, I guess if that's how you want to live your life, more power to you. More power to you. I, for one, would rather build people up than tear them down. But there you go. All right, we got this last segment coming up. You guys all ready? Oh man, tomorrow's Firearms Friday. Oh, Jacob Sullum, Reason Magazine, is going to be joining us. It's going to be fun. I can't wait. Willie Waffle, the weekend. It's the fastest 2 hours in radio. Absolutely. All right, let's get to it. Here we go. Okay, one final segment for the show today. And it's going to be my commentary on everything that we just discussed with these two school board candidates and how I cannot emphasize enough how important it is that we start paying attention to what's going on in our local communities, especially in elections like this for the school boards. It's tremendously important. because these are the things that we can change. These are the things that we have direct. Yesterday, Adam Bertoldo said, it was the first time he'd ever seen where his input actually made a difference when he got involved in the election ordinance down in the Kenai. And he said it was the first time that he saw that he actually had input on something that could change. That he, like many others, have been focusing on all these national issues and all this other stuff, which you have very little impact or effect on. But he saw something locally, and that's what's inspired. That's where we need to be. This education thing is huge. Because, again, the long-term consequences of what's going on right now in the schools is going to have a lasting effect on how many future generations. We need to be focusing on, the basics of education, the ability to learn, teaching the ability to learn. It's a learned skill, right? I mean, that's something you have to teach them how to learn. You have to give them a love of learning. You have to give them a foundation of grammar, logic, rhetoric. Those three things are the basis of, a classical education. If you have those three things, you can deduce, you can learn, you could teach them to reason, you could teach them to make an argument through rhetoric of, debating an idea, of holding it up and examining it from every side and doing all these things. And we're failing at doing that. I mean, absolutely failing. I mean, you look at the scholastic scores, and I am not kidding. We're in like the 49th position, 48th, 49th position on reading, on math. This is for 4th and 8th graders, right? We're at 46th, 47th, 48th, right there in the bottom the entire time. And yet we continue on like, well, we'll just keep doing more of the same. We'll just put more money at it, and it'll be more of the same. And nothing has changed. Again, the big thing that stuck out to me is when Sarah Palin was governor, we had a 73% graduation rate. We've worked our way all the way up to 76% graduation rate. In how many years has that been? 12 years now? 14 years? 1 in 4 children are being left behind. They're failing. They're flunking out. And even those that are graduating, can they read at their grade level? Can they read at a college level? Can they make change from a register? Can they do basic math? Can they go take a college level class without having to go do tutoring and get remedial math tutoring just to be able to take a 100 level college class? This is what we should be paying attention for. And part of this is to blame is the parents. I agree with that. One of our commenters here on Twitch says parents need to stop taking a back seat in their kids' education. Ultimately, education starts at home. Schools should have nothing to do with belief systems. That's 100% accurate. Forget about belief systems. Forget about the philosophies of things. Philosophy is for older kids, late high school into college. That's when you should be talking about philosophies. In the K through 12 system, what you should be focusing on is how to learn, how to reason, how to logically deduce, how to do all these things, to develop a love for these things. And we're failing at that. Failing over and over and over again. And now schools have become an absolute battleground, an absolute cultural battleground over something that it should never have gotten in there. It should never have gotten involved there. There should be no belief systems in school. In public schools, there should be no belief systems one way or the other. It should be a completely neutral, here's how to learn, here's how to read, here's how to do some basic math, here's how to discover what you love. Why do we continue to allow this? And I'll go a step further, and I know some of you are going to scream at the radio, but I keep asking myself, why do you keep putting your kids in this position? Why do you keep putting your kids in harm's way? I want to have a battle over this. I want to fight this. I want to bring it back to a more classical style education. I want to do that. I would like to see that. I'm just not willing to put my children in the middle of the battlefield while I do it. Now, I know there's people, I can't do it. I don't, single parent I know that not everybody can do it. I understand that. But in my heart of hearts, I'm like, I would do anything to protect my kids. Whatever it took. Whatever it took to protect my kids, I would do that. Now, that doesn't mean that, you look at it, you look at the scholastic achievement and you look at everything else. Homeschoolers traditionally have done better and continue to do better, sometimes significantly better than their peers. And that doesn't mean it's because their parents are professional educators. It means it just shows to me that one-on-one interaction, that care, that interest, and putting those kids' education first. Parents need to stop taking a backseat in their kids' education. Ultimately, education starts at home. Absolutely. But as I told Maggie in the first hour, I don't know exactly how to motivate more parents to get involved in that. I don't. I wish I had an answer. But I don't. But it's one of the things that's going to make it's one of the things that would make the largest difference in all of that. The fact that you care enough about your kids to bring them in, to teach them either at home at homeschool or when they go to school and they come home, you're spending time doing them with. That is the interest in that is what's going to make the difference in those things. But we've got to pay attention to what's going on. We have got to pay attention to these elections. The school board, the borough assemblies, the things that make a difference in our life every day. Because if we don't, what's the old adage? Government is what happens to you when you're not paying attention. We get the government we deserve when we're not voting and that kind of, this should be the primary focus of every citizen, every responsible citizen. Their prime priority should be paying attention to what's going on in their local communities for elections and things like that. The national stuff, great, that'll go on, whatever. But it's the opposite. It's sucking up all the oxygen in the room. And we're just like trying to decide, how we can be mad about something that's going on in Washington, D.C. when we can make absolutely zero difference there. Pay attention to it. Pay attention to what's going on. Go out there, get involved. Bring a friend. Somebody's like, you're at work. I got to go vote. Why don't you come with me? We'll go vote together. I don't want to vote. Come on. It's important. You got kids? It's important. You got a family? It's important. We've got to make a change, folks. All right, we got to go. Hour 1 for tomorrow morning will feature Jacob Sullum. Hour 2 will feature Willie Waffle. It's going to be a good one for Firearms Friday. We'll see you tomorrow. Mr. Master over on Twitch had a follow-up comment. He said, my high school student said this year within the first 2 days of school, he had one teacher that was pushing being a vegan, the Alaska zoology class, and had 3 other classes that had prominently displayed pride flags in the classroom in a Fairbanks high school. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Your head would spin how fast I would rip my kids out of those schools. But again, I guess that's not for everybody. For me, I would not stand for it. It's crazy. All right, my friends. Well, it's good to see you. Thank you for coming on. Tomorrow, Firearms Friday. We'll see you then. Have a good one.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Duke Show.